one and all, Minister of Justice and support staff. Thank you for the answers. Minister, regarding the crime fund, it's been a topic for a few years now. And I think what I'm hearing from the MPs, well, I say specifically MP Roseberg and yourself, and even the actions you've taken over the last couple of months, I'd like to ask a question. Is it accurate that the crime fund actually needs to have a policy attached to the budget on a yearly basis? So is that accurate? And who creates this policy? Because I believe if you have this policy, then you, and especially with an amendment now, you'll be able to, let's say, set the plan forward. We'll be able to take in some of the things that MP Roseberg is mentioning in regarding, let's say, community building, preventative measures for crime, but also, because I do believe some of the crime funds should be spent on items like where you have spent it, the vehicles, because those were damaged a lot of times during the high-speed chase and so forth. So we don't have CapEx a lot of times. We only had CapEx in 2023 before it was 10 years out, right? We can't allow the justice field to not have access to funds to build them up. So is it possible, if what I'm saying is accurate, is it possible to have a policy done to be able to be attached to this budget amendment?
Thank you, MP Irian. I now give the floor to MP Roseberg. MP Roseberg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Lady, Secretary General. Blessed evening to the Minister of Justice and his support staff, and also to my colleagues and the public here present this evening and the ones listening and viewing online. Just in regards to the question of my previous colleague, MP Irian, it's indeed correct that based on the law, and that's why I asked the question, Article 5 exactly, that every year when submitting the budget, and that's why I also asked the question in regards to the crime fund, the minister needs to provide a policy plan where every year it's clear which projects are going to be tackled in that budget year. So thank you for answering what you could have answered at this moment, Minister of Justice. Seeing that based on the answers you gave, it was mentioned that there is currently a draft policy plan, and at that moment, my legal mind starts to work because I'm trying to understand through you, Madam Chair, how we have a draft policy plan which is still in draft phase, but on the other hand, which I understand, we need to tackle the justice matters. So if there is currently a draft policy plan, when will this draft policy plan be finalized? If the minister could answer that through you, Madam Chair. And also, seeing that there is a draft policy plan, can the members of parliament receive this draft policy plan before the public meeting, even if it's needed to do that confidentially? I would like to see this draft to know what is in it. And also, furthermore, seeing that it was explained by the minister that police cars, which I understand also are important to tackle the current rising crime, but if those police cars are being purchased through the crime fund, based on what legal basis are they being purchased? Just to make sure that that is being covered, if that can be answered. And also the breakdown in regards to the different projects, which was explained that we will receive that in writing. Through you, Madam Chair, if we can receive those different projects in writing before the public meeting as well, and then to have it specified exactly what project and for what amount. So let's say I understood mental health patients, Brasami, for what amount and the date and year, of course. And then I can try to do the math or find someone to assist me with the math. Other than that, my colleague MP Otley asked a question in regards to the policy for releasing persons. If that can be repeated, and if needed, I will have a follow-up question in regards to that. And then, when will those police cars, when will they be purchased? When can we see more renovated new cars on the road? Or have they been purchased already? Those are the questions for now, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Roseburg. MP Kotai, you have the floor.
Thank you,
I
Madam
asked
Chair.
the
Good
question already, if
evening.
you would have shown up.
Good evening to all. Thank you, Minister, for being with us here today again. And good evening to those tuning in. I'd just like to add some additional questions here on the floor, and I'm okay to receive these answers in writing as well. So concerning our justice chain, how many personnel are in each part of the justice chain? So a complete breakdown of how many are in immigration, police, prison, Coast Guard, and so on. How many of them are on sick leave? Which parts of the ministry is understaffed? How many justice workers received their new LBAs, and how many are pending? There has been a serious increase in crimes, as I mentioned yesterday, associated with scooters especially. What can be done to tackle this? Can you provide a percentage breakdown of the crimes committed by nationality? One of them that interests me in particular is the percentage of total crimes committed by Americans. Concerning the prison, how many people are awaiting to the carrying out of their sentences? Also, the amount of time they have been waiting to actually sit their time. Is there a maximum time you can wait until one sits? I've heard stories of people waiting about 5 years until they receive their sentences. Is this normal and within human rights? What is the ratio presently of prison guards to inmates on a shift, and is this ratio acceptable and safe? Are there enough guards in the prison? Are there any programs after a prisoner is released to work them back into society? Can you please detail them in how it's done in terms of assisting with housing, job enlisting, or any help in re-socializing them? Who determines the release of inmates based on our overcapacity issues, as was just echoed by our previous MPs? And what is the update on any house arrest possibilities to ease the overcapacity in Point Blanche? Why is it that the governor is the one that can give particular pardons and not the actual government of St. Maarten? And I ask this question in particular with the cancer patient that we have in the prison at the moment, and it's being asked again and again and again in terms of that particular inmate's release based on his sickness. And lastly, what policy does the OM use for releasing inmates? And is this based solely on their liking? Shouldn't that policy as well be transparent? I can also just email these questions over to you, Minister of Justice, and I'm okay to receive it in writing. Through you, Madam Chair, of course. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Kotai. Yes, indeed, MP Kotai. So the questions, if you can forward them to our secretariat, and then, of course, they'll go to the minister / the government for their responses in writing as well. I now give the floor to MP York. MP York, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Minister and support staff, and all those listening. Minister, I'm going to keep it brief. In your answer pertaining to the lab, you alluded to the fact that it's something of that magnitude would not be sustainable. I never specified what size, whether big, small, or indifferent. So when you said magnitude, were you referring to an extensive state-of-the-art lab or something more than what we have today? Can you elaborate on that? Because if I was to ask the question, how many cases go to NFI per year, or how long do they take to come back, I think, to say the least, optimization and how we do things now would work in the benefit of the results we get. and the results that we get will also then in turn work in benefit of the people. So my question would be, when you said it's not sustainable, is it the money required to invest into it or the upkeep of it? And when you said magnitude, can you specify what magnitude you were referring to where that is concerned? And has a study been done, because you said sustainable, has a study been done or anything of the sort that concluded that it would not be sustainable for the island? I don't know if that is based of, if your opinion just now is based on any studies done prior. So that would be, those would be my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, MP York. I look around. I don't see any other member of parliament with any additional questions or comments. So, Minister, I look towards you in terms of the questions that you have just received and how would you like to go about them. You have heard several members of parliament indicate that we would not mind receiving the answers in writing. However, these will have to be received way before the public meeting handling this budget. So I don't know if there are any comments or responses that you want to make right now regarding something that might have been said or brought forward, or you will leave all of the answering to your reaction, your answers in writing. And if that's the case, I see the minister nodding in agreement, and I do see that MP York has something to add before I close off this point with the minister. MP, sorry, yes, that's correct. We have MP Roseberg first. MP Roseberg, you're first in the lineup now. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify as well, the questions that I had in regards to the crime fund were specifically related to the budget, but further questions in regards to justice, because it's an important topic, seeing that there is a CC plan coming Monday, those questions will be asked in more details, and then when the minister will show up for that CC, we can go into details in that regard. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you,
Madam Chair.
MP Roseberg. That is indeed so. The more general questions from yourself regarding, and other MPs, of course, if they have, can be addressed in that CC meeting as well, upcoming next week. But so now I have MP York. MP York, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I just wanted to add that I'm not in agreement and receiving my answers via writing. I would prefer that verbally, please. Thank you.
You would prefer your answers verbally. Minister, you have heard that, but before I go over to you, Minister, I have MP Otley who requests the floor. MP Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had no further questions, just a request that the Minister to repeat the answer on the release. Yeah, but I would like it verbally before he leaves.
Thank you, MP Otley. We have MP Roseberg. MP Roseberg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just also wanted my answer in regards to the draft policy plan, if that can be received and if needed, confidential. That I would like to have answered today, if possible, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Roseberg. So, Minister, you have heard several members indicate that they would like the answers regarding this topic on the agenda to be answered in person. That would mean that you would have to return in this central committee meeting to answer those particular questions, albeit that you have another meeting scheduled, or we have a meeting scheduled with you on Monday regarding general justice issues. And then, of course, you have the request by MP Roseberg about whether you can answer her. She would like you to answer her about the report that she's requesting, and if you can also respond to that. So, Minister, your response with respect to the questions that